Wow. Oh. Well, that's waiting for you there. Oh, wow. Đấy là we have had going for about 10 minutes per day. I'm switching up between 2 cars, 5 cars, back and forth, 3 cars, whatever.
in spring in London, and this was an opportunity to show what the soldiers were doing while they were waiting for the invasion.
Wow.
It was Fleet Street, that is, the Irish policemen guarding the fleet or some of the damage in the area. Soon, we were down on the south coast of England, where we met some of the other correspondents who were scheduled to cross the channel to west. And we probably recognized some of the old timers of the war. I was given a shovel to defend myself. It proved to be a valuable instrument. And here we see Larry Story, CBS. I was still covering the war for CBS, and there was one baker on the left, 20 miles here. This is a photo. This is Larry O'Reilly of the Associated Press. And we were saying farewells because we expected to meet again in Paris. Here on the left, we see Clark Lee of INS and Bill Stoneman, who came from Chicago from the Daily News, and several other correspondents that are being boarded aboard a military truck that was taken to the south coast. And we went through small British towns. Life was going on as usual. People were in the marketplace buying food, and as though nothing was going on. And for a 150-mile ride, that's how we felt, riding in an army vehicle. We found Plymouth was pretty badly damaged. A lot of the buildings were completely destroyed. Soon we found these American jeeps ready to be boarded aboard landing craft, and you notice the bars that are attached to their bumpers. They're designed to cut wires that the Germans had a habit of putting across the road that would sometimes cut off the head of the driver. We weren't allowed to wander around the area by ourselves. Each crossroad point was under guard of both an American and a British soldier. And if they wanted to see what you had in your bedroll, you had to show it to them. But this is the care that was taken that the secret of the invasion be kept as long as it could. These are the two men, Wes Carroll of the OWI and Pete Carroll, the West Haines rather, who were with me, and we went aboard an LCI number 5. Pete Carroll here came from Boston, and he was a photographer for the Associated Press. We tried to keep our mind off what was coming, and we knew it was going to be a short time before we would be on board. We had our first taste of pay ration, which didn't taste bad if we were hungry. And we also were able to see the beautiful countryside in that area. And these are the sort of shots I wanted to bring home to show my family and friends. Pete Carroll was using some of his film to make a few shots himself. Soon, we were down at the docks. There we found units of the 101st Airborne Division carrying everything they could carry by
morning,
boarding landing craft that were so heavily laden they had to be pushed off the docks by trucks, as you see in this manner. These men were being taken out to larger craft and boarded for the invasion. Here we see several units carrying grenades, bazookas. They didn't have an opportunity to load this aboard jeeps that were not fully available at this particular moment. We were aboard a fleet of LCIs, and here shown with the commander of the invasion group in the center, and the captain on the right, rather the captain of our ship. Lieutenant Patton was in command of the LCI number 5, and we found out that he participated in several invasions in the Mediterranean area. We felt rather confident that he knew what he was doing. But we stayed aboard this ship for almost 5 days. This is the commander of the squadron. Wes Haines was trying to get ready for the trip into Paris. I think he was premature. And these are units of the 101st Airborne Division aboard our landing craft, amusing themselves. And I don't have to tell you who this man is imitating. And I was told later on that he was killed in the action. Of course, every ship had a mascot. Ours was no different, but the boys provided for their mascot's welfare with the making of a life preserver, just like the ones that they wore themselves. And then one afternoon, Lieutenant Patton briefed the crew and told them that we would be sailing that afternoon. And they let out a cheer because they wanted to get it done and go home. Here we see the LCI number 4 with the commander moving out into the channel. And this was a tremendous sight to see ships from one end of the horizon to the other. Ships of all kinds. They tell me there was well over 1,000 ships. But even so, we thought this was just another exercise as we continued on. We felt that we'd be turned around, go back, and try again another day. But when we continued on into the night, we knew it was the real thing. At one time, we had a bit of a scare. They said there was a submarine in the area, and one of the DE boats drew some bombs into the channel. And they exploded, but we never saw any attack at all. Here are some scenes actually taken close to the beach, where the ships made a right-angle turn, headed for the area where we were to land. That is a DE boat in the distance. And, of course, we were on the alert for any kind of attack, even airplane attacks. Fortunately, our Air Force did their job well, and at no time did I know of a German attack, except after we had landed, two planes attempted to take the beach. I happened to be in the area. Now, these are some scenes that I took with my camera that was reduced to 16 millimeter. This particular scene of these men on the show was taken by an automatic camera aboard a British landing craft. And they were the first men to land. The reason they were taken by an automatic camera was because they wanted to have a record of what happened should the landing fail. At least they might have a record if they were able to recover the film, what happened and how to avoid it if they had to by another attack. But there's some scenes landing on the Utah Beach, and this is the way we went ashore. This is the end of the British. You notice the men didn't dash ashore after being aboard a landing craft for 5 solid days. They just walked slowly and cautiously, fearful of bombs and mines that were thrown in the area. Notice they had their rifles wrapped in cellophane. But this is the way we had to go ashore. And you can tell you that a lot of those boys didn't make it. Here's one of the famous scenes taken from black and white film of 2 men being shot down right before your eyes. Here is Pete Carroll and Wes Haynes carrying our own equipment. The section of the beach we were on was being attacked by enemy fire, and in the previous shot you could see a bomb actually land not too far from where we were. There it is again. Bulldozers were trying to clear roads to let our jeeps and tanks move forward. Even though it was June, the area was quite cold, as it usually is in that part of Normandy. Of course, the men dug their foxholes a little deeper, and we had the good fortune of finding a concrete wall which helped serve as protection. But even now, we're taking some of our wounded back to the beach so they can be transferred back to England. But when the tide went out, the ships could not come in close. For those that went aground had to wait for the tide to be refloated if they weren't hit. We stayed on the beach the first night and lived in a foxhole. And soon we showed some of the first prisoners taken in the area late the first day were stationed close to the beach. This is our first command post where General Thomas talking to some of his officers. We were able to get some of the first hot food at this place. And although it kept me very busy for 8 solid days, I used up all the food I had. In fact, I cleaned them to get some more and to get a bath. I hadn't had my clothes off during that time. And my landing at England took place in a place near Bournemouth. It almost looks like the place was over. Everyone's familiar with. But it's a beautiful sight to see the coast of England. But didn't realize that at that time the bus bombs would start coming over. And here we see some of them flying over the English coastline. And buzz bombs were a terror weapon. They didn't know where they would land, but the British were quick. Set up machine guns and any aircraft fire to knock them out of the sky, and managed to shoot down quite a few. They even sent planes up into the sky to knock them out of the air. And of course, sometimes they did get through, and where they fell, they caused considerable damage. This is pretty good shooting. There's one actually coming down and landed in the London area, and wherever they landed, they caused considerable damage. My second crossing of the channel was made on an LS2. This time the unit of the 3rd Armor Division that was probably needed because they were bringing over more tanks and vehicles to carry us in the direction of Cherbourg. But we needed, of course, badly. The LS2 was manned by a British crew that the captain was uniform. But we were in the lone turmoil, many of them. Everyone loaded to the gills with equipment that was all they needed. We didn't get an idea of what the routes looked like. These ships were actually waiting for the tide to recede so they could send their equipment ashore without going through deep water. On D-Day, they had to go through deep water. And at this particular moment, they're waiting for the land to be rebuilt after a severe storm so they could go ashore. Now, as you can see, the problems they had on D-Day, because when the landing craft hit the sandbars, the men started wading ashore and found deeper water ahead. Those that had their life preservers too low around their waist turned brittle, and many were drowned. These are units of the 3rd Army heading in, crossing the beach spot ahead of them, and headed towards Cherbourg itself. This was a remarkable sight. They lined up as far as the eye could see, bridges that lined the shore. We needed Cherbourg badly because we thought we could use it as a port. But we found that Cherbourg is still here. It was pretty badly destroyed by the Germans themselves. They destroyed the docks, which we thought we could use. And it took them, if I recall, almost 2 months before we could bring the ship in. They set up mines. Where the famous Cherbourg docks where the transatlantic landed used to land. They not only destroyed the docks, but also the inland bridges that crossed the rivers that entered the Cherbourg area canal. This is one of them destroyed right there. Soon the French people came back into the city and gave us a warm welcome. And soon we found the prisoners. I think they took something like 16,000 or 18,000 men out of the Cherbourg area, and they're still holding their personal belongings, marching across the beaches, but they had to be transported to and from eventually to the States of these held in prisoners of war camps. Even at this time, those that would talk to us or would talk to us said we'd be pushed back into the channel in less than a week. Of course, at every headquarters area, we found that the Germans had a picture of their Hitler, and our boys are using it as a pinboard. Here is the first official ceremony held in France when General Collins on the right presented the tricolor flag made of parachute cloth to the mayor of Cherbourg. And our boys of the 7th Corps were given 3 uniforms for the occasion, including people that came back to Cherbourg after the fighting stopped, came to visit with us and talk to us. Here we see Lenny Pyle in the center again. And this is Bruce Grant, who we saw earlier, student first aid. The troops had to move in the opposite direction to attack the enemy on the St. Lo line. And the attack included the city of Boulogne, and of course it was completely destroyed. I was there several times since the war, and it's been good. But the Germans tried to make a stand here, and wherever they did try to make a stand, they had to knock them out A little later on, I had an opportunity to see the construction that was built by slave labor. And all along the beach, especially along the area and all of the other areas, were built these triangles. Many of them had mines attached to them, so that they were both tested and still exposed. This is a church in Barcelona. That was a pretty little town that the Germans evacuated because the commander liked the city so much, the little town so much, that he did want to see it destroyed. And this actually was true, rather than fishing village. And it was more natural. Coming back several times because the hotel was serving back and serving very excellent food. A little further down the coast, we found these fortifications built by slave labor, and even these metal fences that to keep us from landing in the area. These heavy fortifications that were many feet thick. These corresponding with some areas, the Germans thought here that they would destroy long enough so that we could move against them. They tried to take them back. They even destroyed their own weapons. But we noticed that the walls and fortifications were very thick, very strong. The area was taken over by the Navy, and there was an observation post right from the end. This is near a town called Granville, and there's a lighthouse at the point that sort of separated Normandy from Britain. That's the observation post for 30 years. The service command of our naval officers used as an observation post. Soon we brought in some of our big armaments, and they were set up in a field and firing the German position. And even though the guns were firing, the French people were bringing in the crop, so nothing was happening. This surprised me and couldn't help but one of the first things that the Americans did was to build an airstrip in the St. Mary's Leaf area, not far from the coast. And they used a strip that was supported by metal slabs to keep the planes from sinking into the ground. And they were using it also as a place to take off from with 500-pound bombs under each wing. But the strip was so rough that frequently the bombs would break loose. Even though they were armed, they had to be disarmed and taken off the runway. These are P-47s that they used here. And there's one carrying bomb under each wing, which actually in the featured behind the line. Those two planes taking off, raising considerable dust, but managing to get off very short runway. Here you notice a plane runs the buckle under the wheel. This sometimes causes the next wire to wait and come up and hit the plane propeller before you get to crash before it hits the ground. This is also an accident. Do it off place. One of the highlights of our cross Frank was Mont Saint Michel. Mont Saint Michel was on a river that separated Normandy from Brittany. Here we met some of the other correspondents. This is Bob Packard of Time magazine. You know there's a member of the audience who knew Bob Packard. Bob Packard was eventually killed during the war in Indochina. But at Mont Saint Michel, we found a Tourade hotel run by Madame Tourade. She served some delicious omelets. That's Madame Tourade, a French in the back of it. And a lot of the correspondents gathered here. We'd like to walk from this point because we were close to the front line. We were closer than we were at main bases. And there we see the river that separates Normandy from Britain. This is a beautiful island. within a monastery that the prison act not destroyed at all. And here I looking over the type being shown around by a woman's eyes. Some of the other correspondents from Europe, and here we see Paul Collingwood, the gentleman on the right. Helen Fitzpatrick of the Chicago Daily News, and Joe Leeson of New Yorker Magazine, the bald-headed chap, and Wurtenbecker on the extreme left. This is Paul Collingwood and Helen Fitzpatrick of the Chicago Daily News. This is Ernest Hemingway. Hemingway was covering for Collier's Magazine, and we met him at Homestead Hotel, where he was talking with Phil Walton, who incidentally in the tax friend of President Kennedy. These were just moments that we could take a little time out to rest as Fitzpatrick. And the man in the center of this picture is Phil Stringer, and he was killed trying to get into Paris. One of the things that correspondents tried to do was to get into Paris before anyone else, and he was hit by an 88 shell. But this is just a moment of relaxation and attitude of easily not by all the things that family said. But the little island was very quaint, it was a very old place, but it was fortified in several ways. We discovered that the beaches of the area, especially when the tide was out, were behind dry. They put those sticks in the sand to keep our planes from landing. We found the whole family of 3 brothers. It even Bob London, the boy, found out later, because their grandmother was taking care of them. Their parents, I was told, were killed at the Battle of St. Row. One afternoon, late, I walked out behind the island because as the sun was setting, I could get some interesting shots of the island from the seaside. But they have a single pipe here, and usually island high and dry, but the tide would come in real fast and danger of quicksand, so I couldn't stand in one place too long. But the receding waters left us usually behind in the sand. We didn't stay at Mont Saint Michel very long, but continued on deeper into France. In fact, I went into Brittany for a while and discovered that the boys found a lake there, which was the moment. But the countryside was beautiful during the summer, and the crops were still in the field. Our boys, after washing out of the helmet for many weeks, decided to use this beautiful lake so bad. They were permitted to do so because they were fighting the enemy at an area called St. Malo. And incidentally, all the Germans held out at St. Malo for many months, almost to the end of the war. And but the American sense of humor tough and win the war too. Here are some of the correspondents. We sometimes travel together and we found the little river that was to be used over there. There are a lot of these small rivers around France, and every moment that we could spare, we corresponded with a group of them, like Ralph Moss, at the front, Julie Broderick, Priestley, and of course here we see Edward G. Robinson. Edward G. Robinson was one of the many actors and actresses that came to Normandy to entertain our troops. And they held a show right in the Normandy barn that was not too far from the fighting. Soon we found ourselves in Rambouillet. We see a new pile again on the left, and George Stevens, the Hollywood director, myself and Hudson Carroll. It was shortly after these pictures were taken that Lenny Cloud decided to return back to the States. then went to the Pacific, where he was killed. George Stevens, very well known by the director, we call him Easy. Died when he was in Richmond. But practically every correspondent turned out to try to get into the city of Paris. But he found, as I said earlier, that the Bill Eisenhower had given permission to the French Common Division to take the city of Paris, because the important thing was to destroy the enemy. They didn't consider it as a target. Later, they didn't consider themselves. They wanted to circumvent the city. They wanted to be honest with the French. General Leclerc was in command of the Second Army Division, and he refused to let the correspondents accompany his force to get into the city, simply because he didn't want any concentrate until we had the city secure. I'm glad to see Paris. The city some of the shots taken on the first day of liberation. And soon General de Gaulle came into the city, waited down the Champs-Élysées. And here he is taking his salute and receiving some flowers from the French girl. It must be remembered that de Gaulle was not well known at this time, and very few people could listen to the radio reports that told about his work in England prior to crossing the Channel. Then he became very popular. Years ago, everybody in Paris turned out to see de Gaulle. And he was marching down the Champs-Élysées. It was a tremendous sight to see. Later in the day, our own troops paraded down the avenue and something that made us all stop. And suddenly, firing opened up from the forces that were left behind, trying to panic the people. So if you stuck your head out a window, you were bound to lose it. This went on continuously for several hours. In fact, I was in the middle of this thing, and people talked about people lying flat on the ground. They were under our car. We couldn't move the car. They were trying to get shooting by waving white flags. It went on continuously. And they did catch some of the people who were responsible for the shooting, at least they covered that. And then posted a beating the death out of the car. Somebody tried to see. And so for a minute. Some of the buildings still contained Germans that were at that point, and they were sworn at by the French. These are some shots made late in the day of the American troops marching through the streets of the city on their way to the front lines. Wherever we stopped, the French were there to trade champagne for cigarettes and to talk to us and find out what was going on. We were able to see the city. It wasn't badly destroyed. There was some small arms fire. The lion lost his tail. But generally speaking, all the bridges were intact over the city. And this is the Opera House. And since it was my first trip to Paris, I enjoyed seeing the beautiful city of Paris. Soon the people of Paris were out parading again along the Champs-Élysées with their newfound liberty. We discovered that the Eiffel Tower, which was reported destroyed and used for arms, was still intact. And soon I managed to get permission to go up into the Eiffel Tower and see what it looked like from up above. But there was much to be done, and even though Paris looked beautiful, conditions were very poor. The railroads were practically destroyed. There was no way of bringing in food. In fact, when we were coming down the road, we saw large trucks waiting to get into the city, loaded with all kinds